All right, welcome to the Best Overall Show. My name is Jim Vessel. I am joined today by David Koska and Bobby
Hey.
Clarke. Hello, guys. How's it
Hi.
going?
Very good, thanks.
Great. All right, so for those of you that don't know, Bobby is the Golden Demon finalist and the owner, I guess would be the proper term, of Red Eagle Studios, head painter, only painter, I presume, of Red Eagle
That's right,
Studios,
yeah.
based out of the UK. So we're gonna talk to Bobby. We have a lot to kind of dig in with Bobby today, and I'm excited to talk to him. It's been a little while that I've wanted to chat with him because I haven't actually, I'd say I'm a fairly fast painter. I feel like I produce a lot of volume, but I think Bobby basically does laps around me. So, and it's incredibly high quality as well. So I need to gonna hopefully steal some of his secrets live on air today. And obviously, David is joining us as well. And David, where are you right now? Because I feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
I'm I'm normally in New York, and right now, this entire week, I've been in Utah. Luckily, I am not in the woods right now or in the mountains. I'm here in a roofed facility with internet. So it's been great.
Awesome. And is it cold where you are?
No, I'm very sunburned, as you can tell from my awesome farmer's tan and red complexion right now. Yes, I'm going full Angron this season.
Awesome. All right. So with that said, I just want to get through a few quick announcements before we get into it. So first announcement is that I'm stupid. And what I mean by that is I had mentioned you guys on the show on Tuesday that I would not be streaming this Sunday because I would be filming with the guys that play on tabletop. I got the dates totally wrong. It's actually the following weekend. So this Sunday's hobby stream is still on. So that's our first announcement. Second announcement is to be sure to check out the first episode of Politics and Plastic, which went live on Tuesday. That basically is me sitting down with Lou Rollins. We talked about whether commission painting is should commission painted armies should be eligible for best painted awards, and we're going to talk a little bit about it today. So make sure to check out that episode as well. And then the third announcement is that we are growing and we are live on various podcast apps. So you can check out both the Best Overall Show and Politics and Plastic on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and I think Google Podcasts shortly. So if you guys are more podcast listeners, feel free to tune in on those platforms. And then the last announcement is that there's a little bit of a desync with the audio. So I'm going to be working throughout the stream while the other guys talk to get the audio in sync. So if you see me kind of half paying attention to what's going on, that's the reason. And I am aware of the audio missync, and I think it has to do with the fact that either there's latency through the internet, or my computer, which is pretty beefy, is just not up to the task. So with that said, I wanted to introduce our guests. So Bobby, so Bobby Clarke, obviously you're in the UK, and I don't know, to be honest, besides the fact that you have a painting studio and that like I follow you on Instagram, and I know you've actually done a few armies for a few of my buddies out here in BC as well. And that was actually when I first learned about you, is about 3 or 4 years ago. Custodes army. I won't name who it is because I don't know if they want me to kind of be out there, but a Custodes army that you did for a local player here, and that he was who introduced me to you quite a while ago. But other than that, I don't know a ton about you, so could you maybe just tell us a little bit about like your history? How did you get in the hobby? I think later we're going to talk a lot about like how you got into commission painting, but maybe just like a little bit of your history in the hobby and stuff like that. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, sure. I started at a young age. It was around about 8 o'clock. I was 8 years old, and I was living in Germany at the time. My dad was in the army, and I was a big fan, obviously, of toy soldiers and stuff. And I did it right through my teens till around about 12 years old, I think I was, when I came over to the UK. I did it right through till around about 18, and I actually then started working for Games Workshop. It was my first job. I think my dad wanted something a bit more, useful in life. He was a bit perplexed that I decided to go for that. But it was really cool, and I spent a good 10 years, I think it was, in total at Games Workshop. So I did a good 10 years before Games Workshop doing all the hobby, and then 10 years actually with GW. And I rose all the way to I think they call it a veteran sergeant. So it's the guy that trains other managers. So it was quite an awesome experience.
Nice.
Right. And where did you go from there? Like what happened after that, like that stint, I guess, with Games Workshop?
It went a little bit downhill. I kind of found a decent girlfriend, and I had to move. Things went different then. So the hobby suffered. I had to get a proper job. Um, I moved way up north where I am now in Northumberland, so away from the family. And I didn't really have any of my friends then, so I couldn't really play many games.
Mhm.
And that I've been up here now for 10 years. So for the first 5 years, I'm boring retail. And then it was about 4.5 years ago then that I decided to start Radio Eagle Studio and get me brushes back out.
Nice.
And it was enjoyable getting back into it. I'd missed it for quite a while. So yeah.
Mhm.
Right. And what
It
yeah,
was
like
about 5
what
years in total. I didn't even read any White Dwarfs, to be honest, so I'd missed
yeah, so
everything that
how,
I'd enjoyed
you
for
mentioned you
over
had the
half my
hobby
life
for
already.
some time, so how long
So I
were you
didn't do
kind
any
of out of it?
painting. I didn't do anything really. I didn't even, talk to my friends much about it. So it was literally around about 5 years ago that I then got back into a bit more of the hobby and started actually doing some more of the painting.
Mhm.
Thankfully, I hadn't lost any of my painting skills. It was almost like I got back on the bike.
Right. And is there any favorite
I think it's
armies or
always
any
been
kind of
Space
favorite
Marines, if
forces
I'm
that you
honest, just
were
because I
that
painted
was
so
like
many at GW.
your jam, or were
I
you
was
kind of
so
like
good at
a
them
mini army
because
guy?
every year you had to do hundreds of them for the cabinets. So I think that's where I kind of appreciated how good Space Marine power armor is and how good I was at it, because I literally painted thousands. So
Yeah.
anything with armor is normally cool, and I think that still stayed to this day actually.
Hey, Bobby, so when you said you jumped back into the hobby and started your studio, was there like an overlap between like kind of like finding your feet and the passion again, or was it mostly like, wow, like I could make this like a career jump? Like, how did that come
Right.
to be exactly?
Um, it was kind of accidental. I didn't do it out of actual choice. It wasn't my first decision to do it.
Okay.
Um, about 6 years ago, I was working a boring job in a factory. It was
Hmm.
just something nearby, and I got a bit poorly, and then they discovered that I had a lung disease. I don't want to get too deep. We're meant to be high in positive. It was a pretty bad time, and I thought, well, what can I do now? Because I can't hold down a normal job.
Yeah.
So I spoke to the girlfriend and was like, what can we do to rectify this? Because I was starting to sell off my toy soldiers. It was getting quite sad because all of my cases that I'd had for years full
Yeah.
of painted models, I was having to sell to pay for rent and, put petrol in the car. So
Yeah.
I eventually ran out of cases. I ran out of models to sell. So I'd literally sold everything I'd ever had. And then I had a meeting with someone actually at the job center, and he just said, well, I'll give you a hand and we can maybe see what skills you've got. Told him I did painting. And I think within 3 months, we'd already sorted out a business plan, written down what we were going to do. And he said it would be a great idea. So I just went for it and decided to put my old hobby into making some money and see how it goes.
Oh, that's
That's really cool. That's like I mean, I think I've definitely been in that situation where I had this there was a time where I basically had quit my job and was in between jobs, and I literally sold off quite a bit of stuff, and I think it was actually pretty cathartic because I had a lot of stuff that I'd pack ratted. But there's
Mhm.
always something about I'm not someone that likes to sell armies. Like I don't like to sell my models, my personal stuff, and so there's something really like kind of bittersweet about getting rid of stuff, even if it's for a good reason.
I
In
actually
your case,
started
it
about
seems like it
5 years
was
ago.
out of
It took a
necessity,
while to
which
get
makes
it
it even
started
harder.
because I actually
So that
started with
sounds like it was
eBay
definitely
at
it
the
must
very
have been
beginning. I didn't
a hard
have
time.
anything like set up like a
And so
website
how
or
long have
an
you been
Instagram.
pushing
I
painting
didn't
this?
have
Like, did you
anything
say
like
six
that. So I
years?
was literally painting some models I had left over that I hadn't sold and just put them on eBay to see if anyone wanted to buy my stuff. And fortunately, I put
Right.
them on at a ridiculously low price, the sort of price that no one would say no to. I just thought I need money now. So I put them out there, and I think they
Yeah.
sold within a day. And then I sold some more. And then strangely, the person that bought those models is still one of my existing clients. So he's still with
Oh,
me
awesome.
after 5 years.
So I noticed in your recent post that you're painting like 60 Skitarii models like all at the same time. Now it's and Jim also mentioned that the rapidity of which you can like pump out like finished pieces is pretty astounding. Is that something that you've always had it within you, or is that something you kind of like learned with time and with the since you've been doing this for about 5 years, have you been kind of noticing? Well, also you mentioned also you've been like painting space marines like crazy with GW. When did you start noticing that like you pump out high quality models and like faster than most normal people can?
Well, I think I realized that when in my G days, I was able to produce models quicker than any of my staff.
Yeah.
There were very few that could rival me then, and it was just because I was quite methodical. So all I did then was, when I
Mhm.
was starting to sell things on eBay, I wanted money quick. So I just made sure I did a 12-hour day, and I would work on all of them. So I had like 60 models at once, and I would just
Ooh.
paint eyes on every single model. And you'd get up at 7 in the morning, and it would be 7 at night, and you were like, they're all finished. So I think it's always been in me from Games Workshop days, but I think the luxury now is I'm my own boss, so I got to then decide what
Yeah.
would be the most efficient way of doing it. What would be the most productive hours that I
Yeah.
could pump into it.
Do you feel like that motivation comes naturally to you to like finish models quick? I mean, I'm assuming there's probably like a lot of like client commissions and whatnot. I know that Jim and I, Jim is getting into commission painting, but like prior to that, I know him and I assume our motivation was based on like events we had to go to. So I mean, it's like seeing the amount of pieces you put out. Like I'm assuming like your client are what motivate you pretty much to keep moving forward. Or do you feel like there's other things at play as well?
It's mainly the clients, to be honest. I wasn't quite aware for how they almost become friends. Even when I
Mhm.
first started, the guy contacted me,
Mhm.
and I think he wished me happy Christmas at one stage, and I was like, this is a bit odd. I'm not used to, you've just bought my toy soldiers off me. What is this? And
What friends don't
you know,
talk to me.
so it was almost like the satisfaction that I got from
Yeah.
hearing how happy he was to receive the models and what he was doing with them. He was putting them in cabinets.
Mhm.
He was almost enjoying what I had produced. And I think when he was sending me back photos or leaving a message, um, and even now he sends me photos of like when he had a new kid. He's had two kids now. I got a little card of his little kid, and I'm like, what is this? This never used to happen before at Games Workshop. It was very personal. So I
Do
think
you
now it's actually talking to the client
uh,
at the end when they're happy,
do
and
you
they,
feel
they
like
actually
you made
get it.
friends with your clients like in the like since like these like last 5 years? You feel like you've made friends with your clients and that like
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
that's great.
it's something I think that I wasn't ready for when it first started because I thought they were annoying. If I'm honest, they were talking to me all the time, and I was trying to paint. So they would message me, my phone would go off, and I'm like, I'm busy painting 50 Space Marines. What do you want? And I almost thought of it as a chore, as a, like it was in my way.
Yeah.
But now actually, it's really cool. And I'm able to obviously multitask because I have people from all over the world, different time zones. So I'll
Yeah.
have some of them will contact me at 6 in the morning. Some of them get overexcited, forget that they're in a different time zone, and just message me. Um, and others in the UK, for example, they know I finish normally work around about 5. So they normally wait until 5 o'clock bang on, and then they'll message me. And I think definitely now that I've got a lot of, I would say, friends. If I was to go to Canada now, I know that I could probably hook up with 3 of the guys that I know and have painted some bits and pieces for, and it would be just like having mates here. There would be no difference.
Oh, it's
So
awesome.
it's quite perplexing, really.
Do you still tackle the hobby like personally? Like I know you're very busy with your commissions, but do you still play 40K or other games right now?
I don't play, no, that's one thing. I did do a little bit with our flatmate for a while,
Mhm.
but work just got too much. And
Yeah.
I think work-life balance, if your work is the same as your hobby, it becomes quite awkward. So, and obviously I have a girlfriend, so there's a lot of my time that I've got to devote to different things. So
Very
I
fair.
think I stopped the gaming side, but what I still do is I still do try to maintain my knowledge. So I try to make sure I know what's happening in the world, but I mainly paint my own stuff as well. So I do enjoy painting for myself, and it's totally different how I paint for myself to how I paint for clients as well. So it's like a different experience.
Oh, we actually wanted to ask you about that, about like how do you feel about that dynamic of working between like being working on commission projects and working on your own personal projects? Do you feel like the speed slows down or you have more attention to your pieces? Like how do you usually approach them? Because I know like most people who look at commission painters think that they just like they look at like their website and they're like, these are the levels and tiers of quality that I have, and they probably assume that's how you approach your own pieces. Is that how you do it too, or do you feel like you have a whole completely different regimen?
It's quite different when I'm doing it with clients, time
Mhm.
is a factor. So there's always research in what they want the colors to be. There's always a bit of chit chat as to what they want, but it's very quick because I haven't got time to talk to someone for 10 hours because that's 10 hours wasted. Do you know what I mean? I could be painting. So it's normally very brief, the research time. Um, but when it's for myself, I actually turn into, like you guys, just a normal hobbyist. So I'll sit there for hours reading books. I do Sisters of Battle is my main, Adeptus
Oh,
Sororitas my favorite. So literally a week ago, I had a little smoke machine with like scented smoke coming out. I had some Gregorian chant music going on, and I had my Sisters of Battle book out, and I was just sitting in my room watching, doing this. And my girlfriend comes in and goes like, "What are you up to?" I'm going to leave this room. What is happening? And I'm like, I'm immersing myself. I think you find is what's happening. So I may go a little bit weird, but it's totally calm and it's longer. So whereas I would be very brief with a client as to like nail down the points, when it's
yeah.
my own personal hobby, I will take however long I need because it's almost like a different experience.
Hmm.
So probably just like yourselves, I like to savor it for myself
Hmm.
because I'm doing it in my own time. So I enjoy it probably for longer. It's quite short sometimes with clients, sadly, because they obviously want their toy soldiers quick, don't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the main difference. I think I actually turn into you guys probably.
I don't think I've ever put my ecclesiarchy robes on and waved my sensors around. I should.
It's only a matter of time, I think, to get it stuck in. I've always been interested in history, you see, so I like that sort of stuff.
Mm.
So I like heraldry, and that's how I'd like to paint my stuff.
Well, I did find some stage yesterday, so maybe I'm starting on something. So yeah.
Okay. Sorry, David. I just want to chime in really quick. There's just some audio issues, so if you guys are in chat, let me know if they've been resolved. Apparently, I sound like there's like a weird delay, so just let me know in chat
Yeah, of course.
if the audio issues are resolved. If I'm sounding okay, that's why I've been fairly quiet. But I did want to. I do want to get more into that topic with you, Bobby. But I definitely want to get through some of the topics that we um, kind of set aside first, and then we can kind of get a little bit deeper if that's cool with you, David. Cool. So
Yeah, we can talk
yeah, so
plenty,
we'll
I
definitely come back
suppose.
to talking
It's
to
Jim's show, but mainly with Dave
an
and
audio
me.
issue
Is that what it
too.
is?
So I wanted to ask you something
I'm
because
not sure if I don't even
there
want
was
to talk
something that you
because I
did.
feel
You
like
did
you
a
guys should just
Golden
talk
Demon
this way.
finalist a while back with your
I'm not sure
with
what
World
that
Eaters.
sounds like.
Yeah.
When you did those, did you end up selling them, or did you end up like keeping them as like a memento for like like a? I mean, that's a big accomplishment. No matter where you are in the world, getting a finalist pin in Golden Demon nowadays is a pretty big task.
It still is pretty big, to be honest. I'm not a man for entering many competitions, so
Yeah.
I was actually persuaded by a client to do that. Those models that I painted were actually for a client.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I spoke to him, and I'd already painted him about 4,000 points of World Eaters, and he'd left this special, almost a command squad is what he got for me at the end. And we had a chat, and he said, "I really want you to enter Golden Demon, Bobby." And I said, "I haven't got time. I'm a busy man." So he said, "Well, how about I just pay you for a whole month, and then you just enter the models, and then I keep them at the end, obviously, because they're mine." And I was like, "Well, that's legally allowed. I am the one that painted the models, but I
Yeah.
just don't get to keep them." So it
Yeah.
was pretty cool. There was a guy actually nearby called Rich who actually sculpted some or did some work to the models to kind of make them a little bit cooler, like to the bases and bits and pieces. But I had to then crack on with the paintwork, and yeah, he literally paid me for 4 weeks,
That's
and
amazing.
it was at that time it was my best ever work, obviously. So he was wanting these pictures every day, what little bits I was doing. I was doing blood spray. I was going in and doing
Yeah.
things I'd never done before, and it was amazing fun. But halfway through, I realized I was behind schedule, and he only paid me for a month. So I was like, I need to knuckle down and get on with it. But it was an awesome experience because I got to enter something that I probably would never have been able to before. The time that you need to put in to go to Golden Demon and enter something that might win, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Because I was disappointed that I didn't get obviously third place at the time. I was like, why am I not in here? What's happening? And I think Andy Wardle got third place. And I looked at it and went, oh, that's why I didn't get third place. I was like, I went in there guns blazing, think I was amazing, and then I saw it and went, "Oh, everything he's done is a bit better than mine." So I think I'll bow down.
Uh,
Hey guys, I'm
Can I
just
unmute?
doing a quick audio test here to see if it works. Hopefully it does. I'm not hearing anything for some reason.
No worries. So that piece you mentioned, you had a friend of yours that did some of the sculpting. Do you do sculpting conversion work yourself, or do you usually do your commission pieces like
I see
pre-built?
something's going on
Like how do you
here. Wait,
usually
one sec.
approach that?
Okay, I'm gonna let you guys
I
continue.
don't do much sculpting at all, mainly because I'm
And
appalling.
then, I'm
I'm
gonna shut
really
up for now.
very bad.
So
If you gave me some
have
green
fun
stuff,
at the
it will
conversation.
be like a
It's audio
toddler who's
issues.
been let loose with some Play-Doh. It will be pretty bad. I think currently I'm very cautious where I spend my time, and
Uh-huh.
I don't have the time to perfect green stuff or sculpting, but I do have time to perfect maybe my painting and other aspects. So I think that's where I focus on currently.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, so someone else did some work to that while I did the main painting. But I think the main thing I got from that is it almost felt like it was mine the way I was doing them, because I had a month free almost to just
Yeah.
do whatever I want. He gave me free reign,
Mhm.
but sent me lots of pictures. He was like would inspire him because he's a math Eater fan.
Have
And
you did you read any of the World Eater source material, like the Angron book?
I did read some. However, I'm very bad at retaining knowledge
Okay.
on certain things. When I was younger, I had a bit of a car crash, and it just basically meant that my memory is not as good. It kind of siphons out important material sometimes.
Gotcha.
So the cool thing was, though, that my client actually gave me all the reference material in the post. So he sent me the Angron book, and he sent me material and said, "Here you go, have this." It was like a little World Eater supply stash. And I got it out of the blue, and he just said, "Enjoy," because he really wanted me to enjoy the experience. I think we'd known each other for about a year,
Yeah.
and I still know him now. And he was American. He was in the Marines, and he was very much, "Let's go do this." It was very There was
Awesome.
no messing about, so it was awesome to do.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen the models we're talking about, check out Red Eagle Studios Instagram or his website, because this command squad is just like oozing with flavor. It's such an amazing command squad. Because I read the Angron book, and in that book they have a very different like militant feel than they do as like when they turn to chaos and they're just berserkers. They're very much more like almost like Roman in the way that they like approach battle, and like storm shield lines, and they just like walk into people in like phalanxes. And they're like the models you made are just like they feels like it almost encapsulates like that kind of like brooding like energy of like just ready to unleash mayhem, but they're all just very like collected almost like, but on the edge of just like jumping onto people.
I did enjoy them. I think what was really cool as well is it wasn't just the main big characters or the banner bearer that I did that with the really awesome ones. Even the very basic one, there was one that had a crazy mohawk hairstyle,
Yeah.
and when I was painting him, he had like starry eyes, like there was almost like ET. They were bulging out, and when I
Yeah.
was painting it, I was like, "This is so cool to paint." And I was putting all like bullet holes and damage and chips on it, and it
Mhm.
was the first time I'd done it as well. So I was entering areas I'd never done before.
Oh wait, what did you like so do you feel like you learn a lot of like new techniques when you're on like the fly, like working on your commissions?
Yeah, there's certain times when I think I want to try something. Normally, I have some of my clients that are very pushy in a really good way.
Mm-hmm.
They're very creative themselves. So what they normally do is they tell me what they want, what sort
Yeah.
of the overall look, and then they kind of push me to make it happen, even if I don't quite know what I'm doing. Um, I had one guy called Rich who constantly asks me for doing weathering, and he knows that I don't do weathering. I like crisp and clean,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really he listens, but obviously he then says, "Can you
Yeah.
just do a little bit of weathering and muddle them up a bit?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually quite handy because it pushes me to do those things that I probably wouldn't do otherwise. I would just keep to the safe stuff.
Jim, getting to add?
I'm not really sure if this is working, to be honest.
What was your audio?
How do I sound to you guys?
You sound great for me. As
That sounds weird.
always. I'm your hype man.
There's some slight interference on.
Is that working fine with Twitch? I'm being terrified to talk because apparently it sounds awful.
Oh
They sound
no.
Transformerish.
The
That's
Transformer.
great.
We can make those noises for you.
There's no more delay, at
Also,
least.
I was wondering. Oh, sorry.
Am I still Transformerish though? Like, it's not my PC because I don't have that much open. I mean, I like being a robot. That sounds great. Give me 1 sec. Let me...
So, Bobby, I was just wondering too. Being a competitive painter, I mean, to a degree, with like your Golden Demon thing, I know like you have a very high caliber of quality in which you try to attain. Do you notice there's like a trend in what is considered like the gold standard of like 40K or miniature painting? I mean, like back in the day, Golden Demon painters were very like about like very like flawless, clean, wet blends. Do you feel that like this day and age that we are hitting another like kind of like gold standard again of like a trend of what's like a popular like aesthetic?
Maybe actually, yeah. I think the main thing I've noticed is there's lots of different styles. I would say that I notice now.
Mm-hmm.
I think now it's more like you don't just see the typical heavy metal style so much everywhere. You actually see people using oils or doing different techniques like wet blending, which I don't even quite understand if I'm honest. I try it, and I like a guy called Vince. I think it's Venturella,
Oh,
and
the guy does all the Slanesh stuff.
I when I look at his stuff, it's amazing, isn't it? But I try to replicate it. I watch his tutorials, and even I'm like, I don't quite know what you're doing. It's wizardry. That is proper. It's almost like completely different style to me, and I don't know how that is. I'm very clean and very precise, and he's
Yeah.
just get a fat brush and just blend it. And I'm like, well, you can't say just blend it, but when he does it, it's like it's so super smooth, and it's a style. And I think what you see is there's lots of different people that do different techniques. There's a lot more of that little stippling, that the little people use dots and join the colors together,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's more like different styles that I think
Mhm.
I see now.
Or the style right now where people are doing cross hatching on their fabrics. I think
Yeah,
that's a really cool one now because like if sometimes like especially with the new like I don't know like this is a battle and the ecclesiarchy like priests like maybe they're using like kind of like more like loose spun like fabric, so it's kind of cool to see like that kind of more like grungier like cheaper quality fabric look on the models.
yeah, definitely. And I think also it's how people are using paints, I think, as well. You're seeing a lot more colors appearing in corners. Well, when you see a face, I used to just use three colors, if I'm honest, when I
Mhm.
first started. And you see people throwing in greens and purples and stuff now. And
Oh,
if you were to tell someone that normally, they'd be like, "What are you on? That
yeah.
makes no sense." But when you see someone do it, it's almost like a different style. And I think it's very good, obviously. It's different to what I do, and you try to include a little bit of it. But
Yeah.
I think that's where I see it's different. But I think overall, the level of painting might well have increased just because there are so many more people on Instagram or wherever
Oh
that are
yeah.
just producing higher quality. I think that's what you see, and I think maybe also people are learning from tutorials maybe more. I
Oh
know
yeah.
I learn more by watching, so maybe there's more people now just checking out how to do stuff.
Yeah, I find it fascinating with like in general like the culture of like kind of like nerdy like artistic like ventures. You're getting a lot more people that usually wouldn't normally miniature paint into the game, like into like the activity. And so you get these like fine artists who are just like, oh, it's like working with oils like on canvas but three-dimensional. Or you have sculpture artists that come in, so like I'll sculpt models. It's just it's pretty wild. You want me
Hmm.
to right now? Still? No, no, Jeff. What did you do?
Stay strong, stay
Okay,
strong.
let me just. Sorry,
We'll get
just let
through
me.
this.
Okay, you guys go ahead. I'm getting a weird crackle from Twitch. So
Okay.
I'm gonna shut up.
So, no worries. So Bobby, like,
Seems like there's like a
you
weird crackle going through when I speak.
you have your headset on and your mic on.
So yeah.
So Bobby, I have a question for you. So
How's
you're
this
working on
sound?
your sister's. Oh. You,
Just leave a message in the chat and then.
okay. So yeah, Bobby, like you said, you're working on your Sisters of Battle. Like, how are you approaching your own personal project? Because I feel like you said before, you have this passion to work on your own personal project. Like, what sister like what order are you trying to use, like a codex order or your own, or what are you working on exactly?
It's totally mine. I think that
Mhm.
the one thing I wanted to have was something that looked different to what you normally see. I'm not a big fan of having particularly metallic armor. There's a lot of times when you see when they do Space Marines, they'll do half of it metallic and half of it another color,
Yeah.
and it's very quick. But I
Hmm.
didn't want that really for myself.
Okay.
When I tried it on the sisters, their armor is so skinny; they're almost very fragile models. So that
Yeah.
when you start to segment them like that, it doesn't quite work.
Hmm.
So what I've done instead is I've looked at a color palette I liked, and it was inspired by one of my clients who's French. So I've done a French medieval kind of like look I've gone for.
Oh,
So
cool.
I've looked into the kind of, I think it's the there were some patterns for Leon. They were all done in city states almost. So you can see
Okay.
chevrons and fancy creatures that were on shields. So for myself, I'm actually designing my own stuff, putting my own heraldry on.
Oh,
And
awesome.
my approach to it's different in that I wanted to have the vehicles be done first. So I think I went for a
Yeah.
bolder color, hopefully a color scheme that you won't have seen before as well. So it'll be quite, but it will look very French. That's what I'm aiming to go for.
You know what's funny is I actually just started working on like a small.
Yeah, you sound okay to me.
Sky, how do I sound? Is this crazy sound?
Okay. So so it's really cool because you were mentioning about color schemes that are inherently like not a lot of people like would use, and you want to try something unique. I love you. You had this on your website. I saw a commission you did. It was Red Custodes. Now that was an awesome paint scheme. If you guys haven't seen it, like go on his Instagram, go on his website. He has this commission piece where he did these Red Custodes, and it's like that's one thing I noticed about some of your commissions is that you do go on to these unconventional color palettes, which I think um, are really inspiring. Where do you usually find your inspiration for those color palettes? Do you and your client talk it through, or do they kind of just like shoot it at you, or do you kind of like, like kind of like ask them like, "Hey, I have this idea for your army. Would you like to see how it would look?" Like, how do you usually, come about that?
I think normally what happens is most of my clients tell us what they want them to look like, obviously, and
Hmm.
sometimes they make up the colors themselves. So in that case, we'd
Hmm.
already discussed what sort of colors they liked, what would like pop, because
Yeah.
he won't mind me saying, I'm sure, but that was for Bods, uh, one of the guys in Canada, and he
Nice.
chatted to me. And I think it might have been along the time when you guys were talking the other day about the rubric. I think it might have been around that time where he wanted to tick some boxes on get some judges sounding like saying
Yeah.
nice things. Um, and that's where I think we went for. So I chose the red and the white, but reversed it. So whereas normally you would go for a certain section for a certain color,
Hmm.
I then reversed the colors entirely. And I think with that one as well, we wanted more uniqueness. So I changed the heads.
Yeah.
On the bikes, I added banner poles from the Raven Wing,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was all just trying to make them still look very obviously custodious, but making them look much cooler and
Yeah.
different to just a different version of paint. Like most people will go, I won't do gold, and that's it.
Yeah. Hey guys, really quick, we have to just really do a quick technical difficulty, use some techno wizardry, and talk to the High Lords of Terra to figure this thing out real fast. We'll be back in like 2 minutes or so, so just you guys can bear with us for a minute. We're gonna figure things out, and if you want to, I will just be awkward in chat for a minute. We can do that, yeah. Uh,
All right, guys, I'm just testing to see if I still sound like a robot.
okay.
Oh, all
Okay.
good.
They have
All
spoken.
right, fantastic.
All right.
Hey, I'm back.
Jim gets to join in.
Thanks everyone for being patient there, guys. That was that was very frustrating. Trust me.
There's going to be some angry questions fired my way now. He's probably going to vent.
But we were talking about the idea of like, color, like the paint schemes and how you're like working with your clients. Do you usually fall back on like color theory stuff, or do you kind of like use your gut instinct on things usually?
It's a bit of both, but I think I normally do go for color theory.
Yeah.
I'm not a trained artist, so when it comes to color theory, I use that term very loosely.
Yeah.
I look at a wheel of colors, it tells me some information, and then hopefully it makes things better. So it's not like
Yeah.
I sit there like an actual artiste and work it out.
Yeah.
I tend to use a color wheel because it tells me in obvious terms what works and what doesn't and what it suggests. And
Yeah.
then from that, I then try stuff out because sometimes it just doesn't work. And other times I find by trying a little bit, something slightly different, you end up with pure genius. And in the case with the custodes, I really like those because the two colors just seem to work really well together. And the larger the model as well, like when I did the jet bikes and when I then did the Contemptor dreadnoughts, all of a sudden there was giant white eagles blaring out, and I was like, "This is looking cool."
Yeah.
And when I spoke to Bods, the client, he was like, "I think you find I'm loving these." So we were onto a winner, and we
Yeah.
did objective markers and everything. I did all sorts in the end. So,
Oh, awesome.
but it's I think it was possibly my top 3 favorite armies I think that I've ever done. That army, when I
Oh.
saw them together, I was like, "This is mind blowing," and I think it was the one main time when I didn't really want to give it back. I was like, can I just keep it a bit longer to enjoy it a bit?
Nice.
But I loved it. It was good.
That's awesome. Hey Jim, you good, bud? I think you can hear me.
All right.
Because I was
Can
thinking
I
about
can I get in here? Do I
Yeah.
sound like a human being?
Join in.
I
Yes,
think so.
please.
I don't know. I've just given up. Sorry, David. There's I was switched on my source to check something, but since I sound totally
Okay.
normal now, I'm gonna listen to you guys. First of all, thanks everyone in chat for dealing with this, but anyways, I think we're good. Okay, so welcome, Bobby. That's like 2 hours into the chat. I finally feel like
Hi.
I've been like I literally haven't heard a single thing you said, so I'm gonna have to go rewatch the cast later because I've been so focused on trying to fix these audio issues that like I don't even know I didn't hear anything that you said. So I guess you know, and obviously the whole show is totally backwards, but that's totally fine. You know, we're gonna do it live, and that's kind of part of the fun of live live entertainment. So I did have a question for you, and now of course I can't find my show notes, so I don't remember my question. But have you guys talked about motivation yet? Because that was one thing that I was really interested in hearing about. Because you know, I feel like I'm a fairly motivated painter, and I know David, being a guy that literally paints in the like desert, is also very motivated because I feel like you have to be pretty motivated. How do you stay like? And I know obviously for you it is a job, but how do you stay motivated in general? Because I believe like even in my normal like I have a professional job, but I'm actually going through a lot of issues with my motivation in my professional job right now. So like I literally I have a work counselor that I talk to because I'm not motivated, and that's in like my job that pays my bills. So what are some tips or tricks, or is there anything you can kind of speak to as far as like how you stay motivated and to kind of push through, especially when you're doing a lot of repetitive tasks, or do you just love it that much?
Mm. Well, I think I had a good early start, if I'm honest. When I was younger, with my dad being in the army, it was very disciplined how our life was. So I think from a very early age, I was almost like a well-behaved dog. I described myself as. My mum would click her fingers, and I would do exactly what I'm told. Because in those days, you had to like you're on an army base, you've got to follow the rules, or you know. So I think the army life made me very disciplined, and also the fact that my mum's German as well helped massively. So I think I have quite a methodical way of plowing on with jobs or tasks that other people might seem as mundane or boring or monotonous. For myself, I look at the always, even when I start a project, I plow through the pain that some people suffer with purely because I know the joy at the end of it is so high. Complete a commission, you just need 5 minutes with a client and all of us next one. So on a work related point, it's just plow through because you know the result at the end is worth it. And also I'm very methodical in what I do, and it's either do it or don't do it. So if I get up in the morning and I don't feel like it, I feel like I want to do it. And then I will literally add that extra time at the end of my shift to make sure it still gets done on time. So I don't force myself if I'm not 100%, or I'll do it if I'm 80%, but anything less, and I'm like, this is not going to work out well. So I end up having to repaint some of the things if I'm not in the right zone. And also, I think with motivation, I just talk to other people an awful lot, even if it's just a message. I've got a lot of painters that I message on Instagram normally, and they normally show me their pictures. And 5 minutes of finding out what they've done or their suggestions, it almost motivates you for the day. I don't get put off by seeing good stuff on Instagram. Other people sometimes see people that are better than them. There's often I see artists that are better than me, but I never ever see anything negative from that. I see it as motivation, whereas a lot of other people don't. When they see something good, they're almost put off by it and they almost question why they bother. And I never have that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I see that as inspiration because I know there are people out there, many hundreds, that are better than me. And when I see them do something, whether it's a new thing or a little tutorial on how they've done a flaming sword, and I don't know how that works, then I'm set for the day. So I think I was fortunate in that my childhood I was very methodical and I stuck with it. And I really don't let anything get in the way, because as a commission artist, you're paid to get something started, done, and finished. And if you're ahead of schedule, that's a rare luxury. But if you're behind schedule, I'm
Mhm.
always booked at least 12 months ahead, sometimes 24. So
Mhm.
if I then have a chain reaction, that's absolutely catastrophic for me. So it's very important that I just plow on, because you have to go into job mode and just do stuff sometimes, is how I look at it. But I just put heavy metal, cheesy rock music on and then just try to enjoy it. That's literally how I do it. And if I'm feeling really down, then I'll literally just switch my day off to exactly that day, and I will
Mhm.
change it to the other day then to a work day, and I will just take the time, go for a walk, enjoy the sunshine, just do something to try
Well,
to clear the head and get out of it. Because I also limit myself on social media to 2 hours a week, so I find it very important that my brain isn't just full of
That's why you
stuff.
haven't been answering all my messages. That's
That's how
what
it
it is,
goes.
right?
Um,
So
well, I get over 100 messages a
oh
day
wow,
normally. So if you think about how much time that takes for me to answer all of them, if I answer them all a minute, then that's an hour and a half. Even
right.
with my bad maths, that's ages. So that's a good portion of my day. And I've got other stuff to do. So I
yeah.
can't keep doing that. And the clients always come first.
Yeah.
So, if a client talks to me and wants to have half-hour chat, then you've got to be motivated to go into work mode, and he gets my time or she
Mhm.
gets my time, and the person that just wants to talk to me just has to go on hold.
Have
Sadly,
you so just I have two questions kind of from that. Like you mentioned that you kind of talked about it in terms of your shift, and I think a lot of people that maybe do commission painting, maybe people especially that do it kind of on their own, they're not necessarily working for like a studio where they have to go in somewhere to work. They might, and I'll use myself as an example. Like I'm very inconsistent with like my projects because again, it's not something that I do very seriously. It's kind of like a throwaway for me. It's something that it pays for my hobbies, but it's not something that I'm doing as like to pay my bills. Do you find it's really important to set aside specific time to focus on projects where like, hey, I'm going to start at 9, I'm going to end at 5 or whatever, or do you kind of paint every day kind of as you like feel like it? I guess I know maybe not that maybe not just feeling like it, but like do you find it's really important to have that kind of like that strict routine every day?
I think for me, yes, but it might not work for others. I think it's just like when you're at school. There are some kids that like doing school, and there are others that hate doing school. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're less motivated. They just
Mhm.
work different.
Right.
So,
Eh,
so for me, I like the routine. I like the
and
schedule. I like when I start my shift, I actually put a shirt on which has got my badge, my logo on.
nice.
So when at lunchtime when I take the bins out, the neighbour looks at me and goes, What are you wearing?" And I'm like, "It's my uniform." And he's like, "Well, you don't go anywhere for a job. Why have you got a uniform?" And I'm like, "I have to wear this because I'm in work
Right.
mode." And it just tells me that this is not a time to mess about. This is a time to get on with doing some work.
Yeah.
And for me, it actually helps me massively. And to be honest, it helps me massively for mental health issue as well. I like to have the routine and the order. And it means then that if at the end of that week I haven't done what I was meant to have done, that's because I slacked. It's as simple as that. I had the time, I just didn't do it. So I find wearing my shirt, it's much like when I was in Games Workshop. When I was issued with a manager's shirt, I was like Darth Vader. I was ready to force choke. Nothing was going to get in my way. That's exactly how I am now. It's no different, apart from I'm on my
So
own.
yeah, you mentioned okay. So first of all, I mean, I have to commend that because I think a lot of people, and I appreciate that level of transparency because I think a lot of people that maybe think about commission painting, they have maybe a romantic idea of it that it's hey, it's gonna be so fun. I'm gonna just gonna get to paint cool models and I'm gonna have such a great time. But I think what something that you really kind of illuminate is that it is if you want to be good at it, serious at it, and make it worth your time because I think a lot of and a lot of people maybe underestimate how long time things take. And I think if you actually paint
Mhm.
8 hours solid for a day, you actually get a lot done. But the problem is when you tell people, like when you look at how much time people actually spend painting when they sit down and listening to music, checking their social media, whatever, they're probably only actually painting like 50% of that time. So I think that's really interesting. And then one thing you mentioned, you said you were booked up for so far, but have you ever thought about expanding and adding additional people to your team, or is this something that you're kind of committed to always doing? Like, what would be the future for Red Eagle? Like, because I know there are commission paint studios in the UK and other places where there's whole teams of people that work on these projects. So is that something you've ever thought about?
Yeah.
Is like growing your team and adding additional people, or are you kind of too much of a control freak to let anyone kind of near your projects?
I am a little bit of a control freak, but I think the main thing that concerns me about like increasing the number of artists, say, under my Red Eagle studio is a lot of the times I don't like relying on other people because normally they don't do what I can do, and some of them can obviously do better, but there are often I've worked with people where if you gave me 5 hours, I would get more done than that other person. So if I was then in charge of a group, I can imagine my chats would not be friendly like they are now. We're talking as mates. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to work, I
Yeah.
would probably say a little bit brutal as to how, and I'm brutal with myself. So if I've done 8 hours and said that's not good enough today, Bob,
Yeah.
you need to do more, I will literally sit for longer and I will skip dinner and have it later. And it's like, this needs to get done now. And I think if I had that chat with too many artists, if they weren't pulling their weight, then they wouldn't stay with
Right.
me. So I think I would need to, if I was going to expand, it would need to be an artist who was very similar to me and had a good work ethic and didn't take things personally. I've actually had a chat with another studio, an American painting studio, and I chatted to the boss of that one who wanted to recruit me, and he was looking out and he had the exact work ethic as me. And he said all the things that I've just said, and I took it and said, I understand. This sounds like a great opportunity. But currently, I think I want to work for myself. And I do know that if sometimes a company gets too big, there are some painting studios that have increased overheads as they get larger and larger. Then they're paying for warehouse staff, they're paying for admin. You know what I mean? That the actual costs that then comes back on the customer. And for me personally, I don't want to overcharge. I don't want when you buy 10 space beans off me and I send you the bill, I don't want you to have a heart attack. I want you to have the heart attack that you liked how they looked, but I don't want to take the piss almost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be fair almost,
Yeah.
but my time has a certain value. And I think if I increase the crew to a certain size, then VAT comes on. I've got more expenditure. I'm going to have to charge more to make that still happen. And
Yeah, I think
I'm very aware I don't want that to happen. I would maybe do 2 or 3, and then I would maybe pause it there and see how it goes, because I think it's very difficult having artists chat sometimes because they talk very different. If me and Jim are in one room discussing something, we might get on like a house on fire. And if me and you, Dave, if we had the same chat, we might totally disagree. And it's just because we don't gel
Right.
very well, if you know what I mean.
I,
I think that's obvious the way I talk sometimes. I'm a bit brutal, but in a nice way.
No, but what I really like about that, and I think there's two things I really like about that, Bobby, which is the first thing is I think a lot of people, to your first point regarding like the cost for the customer, I think a lot of people don't understand the actual time and cost it takes to go into painting models, like the amount of times and like at the level that you paint and or David paints or I paint, we all paint at different levels, but I think we all paint at a fairly high level. That like people would be hey Scary, nice to see you. Hey Matt, sorry we got some people in chat, but I think people like and I think like I don't do levels, right? Like when people are like, hey, can you give me like tabletop level? I'm like, I don't do levels. I paint everything to a very high standard. It's the same standard. I might do something like competition level, like super. I might spend extra time on something if you really, really want it, but I'm never gonna paint below a certain standard because I won't actually enjoy painting it, right? Like I won't do like a 3-color tournament standard for someone. I think that's like, I don't want to give someone that like that's not something I'd be proud of to give to a customer. But I think a lot of people underestimate how long it actually takes and how expensive it is. And when you kind of break it down by like, okay, well, I don't want to make minimum wage. So if I say take like 100 hours to your project, right? That based on how you're saying like and you're gonna generally quote based on however you quote, but I think a lot of people underestimate how long it takes painters to do that stuff and how much work it actually is. And then they get surprised when it's like, oh, it's like what do you mean like $600 for one model or $1,000 for one model like that? And I'm talking Canadian dollars, so that's like $10 US for those of you listening, right? Or like 10 pounds basically.
Yeah, that's like a bag of chips.
Yeah, basically.
Over here. Yeah.
But I guess my point is like I really appreciate how you are very upfront about that, where it's like, hey, look, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to paint these models, and it's not cheap. It's not, and then the second thing is, I like that it's because I think, as I said earlier, a lot of people have this like romantic idea of commission painting, but to be
Hmm.
successful at it like you are, it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline. It's not always fun, probably. Like it's probably fun most of the time, but maybe there's days where you just literally don't want to do it, but you just have to force through it. You have to fight through it. Maybe you're painting Tau, who no one enjoys painting. Well, I hate painting Tau. So maybe like there's probably lots of things that you've had to do, whether it's painting a scheme that you just didn't like painting. Maybe there's certain colors that you just hate painting, and it's like you have to kind of push through it because it's not
Yeah.
about you, it's about the client. And I think I love that you're being able to communicate that because I would love it if people understood that this is like a as a creative person or as an artist, there's more to it than just the fun part, right?
Yeah.
There's a very difficult part that takes a lot of discipline, and I just I really appreciate how honest you are and brutal you are because I'm the same way in my professional job. Like I've been known to I'm a chef, so I've been known to be like a very Gordon Ramsay type. Like people have like think that and I've mellowed out a little bit over the years. But in my youth, my younger days, I was very hot headed, and it's because I had just very high standards and I expected the world from my team, right? And so if they didn't deliver, they would hear about it, right? And that doesn't work with everyone. So I do definitely appreciate that. I did want
Can I
to,
just
yeah, go
say
ahead.
something quickly on that point as well? I think as well as it being the clients that sometimes don't understand, and it's sometimes it's that they're oblivious almost to how much time goes in. And when you then say, well, if you think of the average wage that you pay in that country, times that by the 10 hours it takes me to paint it, what number do you come up with? And why is it half what I've just come up with? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you just need to explain it in a simple way like that, and people go, well, I get you. And then you go, also, you got to pay more because I'm better than the average bear. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes there are
Yeah,
guys that go, you've got to paint for my skill. If there's someone who paints better than me, and I'm going to ask him to paint for me, then expect some pretty high prices. He's not going to be less than me, is he? Because his time is more valuable. He's
Hmm.
better. He's higher skilled. It's just like an engineer. If there's a high skilled engineer and a not so high skilled, one gets paid more than the other. It's as simple as that. But I think also commission artists sometimes get it the wrong way around. Um, I'm very fortunate in that I've had lots of commission painters actually spoken to me and asked for some advice on how to do their pricing. Because I have a price guide on my website. I'm very open how I have a basic price guide. You won't be shocked then when I give you the bill because
Hmm.
it's in front of your face. And others don't. Like you wait until you get the quote and then you're like, is this correct? There's an extra zero from what I was expecting. Do you know what I mean? As a client, they're
yeah,
like that. There are some people out there that are starting commission companies and trying to do painting, and they're already underselling themselves. So they're actually producing work that's too cheap. And then when they suddenly rack up their prices, all their customers are going to leave. So you've got to make sure that when you start, you know where you're going to begin. And I actually spent 3 months with a mentor that did a business plan. Some of these people that are talking to me don't have that luxury, and they're literally starting in their shed, in their room. Like I'm still in my basic room here, and I think if I could guide them almost, which I've done actually with a couple of people that I help at the moment, and it's quite eye-opening, and it means then that they get a much better start, and they're actually earning a decent wage as opposed to a minimum or even less wage because they don't
Yeah.
take things into account. And it's
yeah.
it's so many times I've seen people start and they're producing lovely bits of art, and then they can't afford it and they have to go part-time, and then they just leave and they don't become a commission artist. And
Yeah.
proof of the pudding is when you see the biggest company in the UK commission studio, they have many, many artists. So that it's not like people are like full of commission artists. They're still increasing in the size of their business. So
Yeah.
there's always customers out there.
Yeah. What do you that's a really good point, and I think it's something that like I know I've struggled with, as I said, like for me, and this is maybe like me being transparent, but like if there's a like because I'm not doing these projects because to pay the bills, I have the luxury of saying no to people or turning down projects if I just don't like the project. Like someone could say, "Hey, do you want to paint 300 orcs for me?" like orc boys, and I might be like, "Definitely not," right? Or sure, I'll paint them, but it's going to cost you 20 grand, right? Like something, I could be pretty outrageous like that, right? So but not I think a big thing about it is if you're getting into that as a career, as something that you want to do to pay the bills, you really have don't undervalue yourself, but also
Hmm.
understand where you're at, because as you mentioned, I'm not gonna charge the same prices as say like Cult of Paint, so the guys at Cult of Paint or all Golden New winners, right? I'm also not going to charge the same prices as the guy's best friend who dry brushed a unit of orcs for him and like for $50, right? So I think that's really important. Even if your prices are not public, which for some is important. For me, the reason I don't do it specifically is because uh, it is project dependent on me. Like it depends on if I like literally if I don't like the project, I might charge more, and that's just me being like maybe that's me being greedy, maybe that's me being transparent. If the scheme is something that I think is going to be really difficult, so like say they want something painted in all white, I might charge more than say like an all black army, right? So these are the things that I think about, and obviously
Mhm.
just depending on my time I might charge differently as well, right? Now again, I've done lots of commissions over the years, but I'm by no means a professional commission painter like Bobby, so this is just coming from someone that's just kind of dipping my toes in it as like almost like an amateur. But I think that's really important. I did want to ask you, Bobby, and one thing that I know that you're really passionate about is the charity work that you do, and something that me and David have talked about in the past is how like I think people underestimate how much charity work happens in the wargaming community. It's something that like I've always noticed, especially in Canada. Almost every like event that we've been a part of, like it generally does some sort of like donation or there's like a raffle. There's always some sort of charity component. You look at an event like Nova, which essentially is a giant charity, and that's one of the biggest in the world, and they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So can you tell me a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit, and the people listening, about the work that you do with 40K in 40 hours, I think it's called, and just kind of how you got into that and what that's all about. I'd love to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think when I was diagnosed with I have a lung disease currently that's only due to medication, and it caused some mental issues with me. And I wouldn't say so far as I got depressed, but I definitely suffered from more dark clouds than sunny, lovely clouds. Um, and I had a friend who's in the forces, and I think a few years back he mentioned that there was the RAF here. We're doing an event, and it was to raise some funds. And I just asked what it was about, and he told me that it was about helping men's mental health. Most of the people, obviously, that do the hobby are men, and a lot of them are very secluded. I think men, just in general as well, don't tend to talk much. So I think it was something to hopefully help, break that
Mhm.
sense. I immediately just contacted the charity organizer, and I said, I want to help. How can I help? And I said, and this was while I was still fully booked. It wasn't like I had a blank month. I just decided that I think I could lend my brush skills here and help raise some funds because I believe in what you're doing, and it sounded pretty cool. And I had a load of Space Marines in a box basically, and all I did was I said, well, how about I just paint you an army, I give it to you, and then you just auction it off. And he sorted out all the admin. It was me painting for like several months, just doing bits and bobs.
Mhm.
And that was back in, I think, 2019 when I did the first army. And I literally just painted up a big old army. I even had some of my current clients donated model parts as well. So I don't know if you've seen, there's a green Leviathan in there for the salamanders I painted, and that
Mhm.
was donated by Bods, one of my clients. So he just said, well, just use mine for all the leftovers. And they just said, use those and help out. And all of a sudden, all of my clients were asking to kind of get a bit involved, use my parts, do this, do that. And I painted up a
Awesome.
big old army, and it was all auctioned off, and it raised a couple grand.
Amazing.
The difference that it can make to someone is quite
Yeah.
massive. Um, and I did that last year as well. So it's 40 hours of 40K, and it's called that because there's a small group of gamers that literally play for 40 hours non-stop, that they start to feel that the body starts to almost suffer after 40 hours of doing anything. I'm sure, David, you've climbed up 4 mountains for like a week non-stop. Do you know what I mean, though? Your body, it starts to suffer
Yeah.
mentally and physically. And the whole
Oh
idea
yeah.
is these RAF guys, they go on exercise and they do this. Your body is tested to make sure that you're ready to fight. So the
Yeah.
whole idea is that's why so many military guys suffer, because of the stuff that they have to endure and the stuff that they've seen.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? It touched me quite a lot because my dad was in the forces, and he went to Desert Storm, and he changed when he came back. So I think what I wanted to do was to help them in my little way. So last year I painted another army as well, and the whole idea then was the people that were at the event playing that were suffering, trying to keep going and motivated, but it was a group of guys looking after each other, and there were women there as well. Everyone got involved. There were kids there at the event as well doing painting, and I was there doing painting lessons,
Mhm.
and they would literally pay me to paint with them, but the money would just be a deposit. or a donation to the charity. So we didn't earn anything. We weren't being paid. We were coming. There were people traveling from all over Britain to like come to this one event in Lincoln to
Yeah.
raise the money, talk hobby, have a great time. And I did the Sentinels of Vigilance last year, which was another big army. It's about 2,000 points. Each of the armies are a minimum 2,000 points.
Oh,
And I
wow.
did that as well. And it was a purple and yellow color scheme. And I really like doing those. And we actually had special transfers with the charity like logo on
Oh,
the shoulder
awesome.
pad. So
Hmm.
it started to get even better. And I think the first year, so in 2019, we raised about 5,000 in total, £5,000.
Hmm.
And last year we raised 6,000. So we're on 11,000. And what I did discover is it's quite absorbing of my time. And as I'm getting busier and clients are getting more demanding, and I've got more stuff on my plate, I couldn't quite do another army. So we still obviously wanted to help them. And that was when I think my girlfriend just suggested, why don't you just reach out and see who can help? And I think I've now got a team of 16 artists that are working
Oh,
with me.
great.
So I just messaged people, and some of these guys actually run studios. That I just picked them because I'd messaged them before,
Yeah.
and we've got men and women that are now part of this group. So with me, there's 17 of us in total. There's podcasters, there's gamers, there are normal people that
Hmm.
no one's really heard of that literally messaged me, and they've gone, well, I
Yeah.
can paint, and we're now doing over 3,000 points of Necrons, and stores in Canada actually supplied models,
Oh,
and we
that's
got them.
great.
We got hundreds of points worth of models for nothing, and they were like, "Here, have this," and then they got
Nice.
shipped over to whatever artist needed those models, and
Hmm.
it's quite amazing how unified almost a hobby is when it comes to stuff like raising
Oh, yeah.
raising funds for important things like that. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, so it's very odd how it's actually happened. No one really said no, if you know what I mean. I just said if you've got the time,
Hmm.
can you help? And a lot of them obviously just said I haven't got time, and I didn't class that as a no, I'm not willing to help. It was like I literally have a job and a kid. Some of them just cannot give you the time, and there were others that said I'll do it. Let's crack on. So
Yeah.
I actually had some models arrive last Friday from Kevin, and he sent me about 15 models, and they're painted beautifully. It was about 20 models actually, and I actually have we put some videos out on my Instagram. You might have seen them as well, where we have a little introduction to some of the artists, and they tell you, what they're doing in it. We had George was our first one from Canada. He was cool.
Hmm.
I like George. He's part of the BC Battle Brothers, and the support that you get from groups is quite amazing.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we're doing a third year this time, and we've got raffles going on as well. So we've got a Facebook page called 40 Hours of 40K. So you can literally just go on there, and it tells you what we're up to, and it just hopefully it will help with mental health because suicide is a biggie everywhere in the world at the moment, especially, and I think that's something that we want to help with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's first of all, it's amazing. We'll definitely link all the info for people if they want to get involved and donate in the show notes and make sure that that's kind of gotten out there. As
Thank
someone
you.
who's struggled with mental health issues myself, like I definitely feel that it's something that's definitely and wargaming is definitely like a very male dominated hobby, I think, in a lot of ways, and it's something that it's not talked about enough. The not just, I mean, it's obviously it's just, yeah, it's just something. Sorry, I'm getting emotional now. It's something that is not talked about enough, and I think that there's definitely a stigma around it where you can't talk about the things that you go through, and I've lost a lot of people in my life with suicide and other kinds of stuff like that, and it's always really hard to think that you could have done more. Is there anything you could have done? And so it's really great to see that. As I mentioned earlier, like it's one of the things that really keeps me positive in the hobby is just seeing the amount of charity work that and like care the community has, not just when it comes to mental health, but all sorts of other issues. Obviously, there's tons of different different issues and stuff that affect people in the hobby, and seeing the way that the community really does try to take care of itself is something that I find really inspiring, and it's something that like I've had people from all over the world, reach out to me when I've had gone through some like mental health issues, like people that I've never known. I had I don't know if you know Adam Abramovitz, the best general, but he's the guy that does all the army painting videos. But he literally called me on the phone one day because he knew I was going through some personal stuff, and I'd never met the guy. Like he called me on Facebook, and we had like a really long conversation about it, and he's there to just kind of help me get through it. So it was something that I definitely appreciate. We're being rated by the Honest Wargamer, by the way, so welcome to all the Honest Wargamer fans. Probably like a little bit, probably good time to have a little bit of a break from all the serious talk. So and
Yeah.
if anyone else wants to get involved, as Bobby mentioned, we're going to put the show notes into the like description, and please make sure to check out the site. Is there ways that people can just directly donate, like if maybe they don't have necessarily models or other kinds of things? Is there ways that they can kind of directly donate?
Yeah. I think the easiest, if you go to the Facebook page, there's actually a donate button. But what I've also done on my website is I've done a direct link that then takes you to that page as well. So you can literally just donate whatever you want to donate. Every £5 you donate puts your name in the raffle. So there are guys out there that are just putting 10 quid in here, 5 quid in here. Others are doing more. So it's literally like a couple button presses and you can then donate. And it's as easy as that then.
That's awesome. Great.
It's amazing.
All right. So just kind of thinking, I want to be mindful of your time, Bobby. How much time do you have? Because I know I feel like you're probably like, let me go so I can go do some painting. But
it's okay. I've done my shift today.
Okay,
I'm all right. I've done my hours. You're
so I did want to ask you. I think maybe David and if David had already asked you this question, because again, as I said, the first 40 minutes I was kind of in my own universe. But you mentioned that you like, do you have any like tips, I guess, as far as like, and I watch your work in progress stuff. I actually ordered, I think I messaged you the other day to figure out where you got those corks, and I literally spent like 30 minutes looking for, or sorry, like 30 hours looking for these like cork thingies. I don't know what they're called. And I found some, and I had to get them like shipped from like South Carolina, because like nowhere, like Amazon doesn't sell them. So do you have any kind of tips as far as for people maybe that are looking to kind of speak? Because I feel like because your production level is really high, and your quality is really high. Do you have any kind of tips for people that are maybe thinking about like they want to get faster at painting, or maybe they're just painting a very inefficient way? Is there any kind of like golden nuggets you can give the audience?
I think the first thing is get yourself an art book, or however you want to write down your color scheme and recipes. There's often where if you write down the method, so I literally have a stage like 1 to 20 and how I would do something. Actually use that with everything. You'll get quicker in finding a perfect recipe. And also crucially, when you come back to doing more for that army, you won't have forgotten how you painted them.
Right.
So you almost master the technique. I think also finding out what you can get away with an airbrush. So I often, when I start a model, I have an idea what colors I want to do, but I'm already thinking, what am I going to airbrush, what color, and when do I start putting the metallics on? And then when you need to work out almost what the first layers are going to be. So I would say that as well. So make sure you've got a bit of a plan as to what colors you're going to apply, in what order. Write it down. Get an airbrush. I know it's not actually that as expensive as you think. I had a £25 airbrush for 4 years. So it's only in the last year that I upgraded to a decent one. So I had a cheap eBay one. So all the work that you saw from the last, the first charity army was actually done with a cheap airbrush. So there's no really excuse. And it broke in the end. I was like, it was 25 quid. But I'd already painted loads, and it's very quick, and it's a good tool.
Yeah, definitely.
I would also say the sub-assemblies, like you were saying with getting the cork, I think cork bungs are the big ones, but you can just get some wine bottle ones. Just go on a drinking spree for a bit, you know. And,
such a good thing to do. Just going to a bunch of, like, if you go on like a wine tour, just go to like a venue and be like, hey, I know you're doing tastings. Can I get some corks from you? And they just give you a garbage bag full of them. That's how I get mine.
If you know enough of your decent, happy friends, you're going to get them for free. You know what I mean? So just get there. But for me personally, I'm currently got, like you said, my 60 Admech on my left here, and they're all in cork with pins on, so that I can get all the corners nice and easier than you would if they were stuck together. And I've got the legs on 60 other cork around the corner. So the whole idea is, if you wanted to try to be quicker and get a quicker result, I also don't move from my chair. So I've actually got my layout designed so that I spin on the spot, and I can go to my paints on the left, I can go to my water on the front, and I have all of my electrics underneath my workbench. And I'm not one of those studios that's got thousands I've spent on it. I've literally got some, it's almost like blue tack. God help me if a fireman turns up and does a little inspection, but I've I've got all of my stuff to hand, so I can literally crack on. No matter what's going on, I can just reach and grab. There's no standing up. There's no getting a tray.
Yeah.
There's no going into a different room. I literally just pivot, and I'm just working away. And it may sound crazy, but I have the same thing with my music as well. So whatever motivates you. So like I said, the cheesy rock music I listen to, predominantly, I will have that cranked out, and it will just happen, and I will have coffee on the go. Find the things that motivate you. I don't care if it's Enya. I don't care what music it is, but get something that motivates you. Because even though it sounds a little like I'm a machine, and a lot of people say I paint like I'm a machine, I actually enjoy doing even the early stages. So when I did the base colors the other day, I literally had to paint 180 sections, 3 different colors. I wasn't complaining because I could have no job, is how I always look at it. There are always people that don't have a job. So count yourself lucky that you're doing something that you do actually enjoy. It's not hard getting a brush and doing a bit of painting. So I think when it comes to trying to get the results that I do, that's exactly how I started. I perfected the kind of method. So if it doesn't work for you, then tweak it. But that's what I would suggest. And have a very good light as well. I have a fluorescent light, so it's actually I can work it at nighttime and I can work during the daytime.
Yeah, I think
so it doesn't matter when, you can just do it.
I think
don't get cheap.
Yeah, lighting is super important, and to your point about having everything nearby, I think that's really important as well. But I do want to stir the pot a little bit, because obviously there's a huge debate. Like, I personally, I have this like weird OCD part of my brain where if I know something's like unpainted, then it bothers me. So like, even if you can't ever see it once it's assembled, so oftentimes I'll paint things in sub-assemblies, even if I know once it's together you're not going to see stuff. Like, I'll still highlight stuff. I'll still like, there's just a part of me that like that will know that it's like, even if you're not going to see it. So when you're painting in sub-assemblies, do you try to think about the parts that you're not going to see and kind of skip those parts, or do you still kind of paint everything as if you're going to see all the parts? Like, is
I'm totally the opposite of you. If you're not going to see it, it's not happening. I'm not to the point where if say I'm doing a tank, I will paint the underneath of a tank, because sometimes that person will pick the model up, or someone will want to look at it. So if you can see the area, I will have it painted. But if it's behind something, then I won't, no, because it's waste. But a lot of my clients like to look at my models close up. They have them in display cabinets. Not all of my clients are gamers. They literally have them on display, and sometimes they'll look at them from underneath. And if I haven't painted it, then there's going to be issues, because they're going to call me and say, well, you slacker, why didn't you do it? So I don't like skip any section. But if there's an area now that you can't see, that's not happening. That's a waste of my manpower.
Right. Yeah. So you're much smarter than me, I guess. I don't know. Like, like, I just remember people used to always tell me with like my Space Marines, like, they're like, well, don't like glue the bolter on, because no one, and don't have to paint underneath the chest because no one's gonna see it. But I'm like, yeah, but like, I know once you glue the bolter on in the arms, you're not going to see that like that kind of area right underneath the eagle. But like, I'm still going to paint that as if you are, because that's just like, I don't want to. I don't know. It just feels wrong to me to kind of like skip it over.
I think maybe you should have this as a challenge for yourself to try to get out of that habit and see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, I have a quick question for everyone. So around the topic of painting and habits and things we don't like. What model do you hate painting the most?
Easy. So
I gotta know.
That's like instant. That's the Heldrake. That's the worst model I've ever painted in my life. Chaos Heldrake. I don't know if you've ever painted any, Bobby, but they're awful.
I have, but it's not my worst.
Okay.
I think I can outdo you for worst. I don't know. Is it the it's for the AdMech? It's the Strider. Is it the
horsies?
The giant chicken. It's got so many pipes, spikes, dangly bits, things that I think my girlfriend came in the other day and she was going to move them, and she said, I'm not touching them because I'm going to break them. And she instantly knew that you could not pick it up without something breaking off. So it's impossible to stick on cork, and it's an absolute nightmare to work on because you've got to spin it and everything's poking out of it. So that would be currently my bane of my life.
Yeah.
That's a lot of scary.
What about you, David? What is it for you?
Okay, well, I have a tied for 2 things, because I don't commission paint, and I did commission paint in Army once. And I remember I was painting someone's Necrons, and I had to paint a Night Scythe.
Is that the croissant? Flying croissant? Is that the one that looks like the croissant?
Yeah. I lost it because it's not like you paint one of them. You paint 2 of them, because you paint the one side, and then you gotta flip it over and paint the exact same goddamn model again. And it's just like so frustrating. It's like a Helldrake because you gotta like flip it over and you have to paint all the stupid shit that no one sees. But like if they were to look underneath, you'd be like, you better paint that. Like, and then the other one's Ghost Arcs. Ghost Arcs are stupid. Like they have a special place in hell for me because they're just like you have to paint them in sub assemblies, and I'm not someone who does that. I just like glue it all together, and then I'm like, oh fuck, because I gotta like figure out how to put your brush in between all those little things on the sides with all the Necrons inside. And then again, you gotta flip it upside down because you gotta paint it all because it's all floating on the base. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I think
I hate
is there any models
touched a nerve?
What is there any models that you're like you never get tired of painting? Because I mean, having painted probably like 20,000-30,000 points of my own chaos, like there's a point where painting chaos trim starts to literally just like drive you insane. Like I've painted so much chaos trim, it's disgusting. But I feel like there's certain models that I could paint like over and over. Like I've painted 3 Mortarions at this point. I think I could probably paint a 4th or 5th. Like they're just such a fun model to paint. Is there anything that you like? What would be like your kind of favorite type of model or specific model that you love painting that you could paint all day every day?
I think it would be anything that's like Eldari, anything sort of that's Harlequin, Dark Eldar. I've done many Harlequin armies, and I've done some of the Drakari recently as well. And I'm looking forward to some new, lovely, sexy Eldar when they get redone and made look good.
I can't wait.
But I actually enjoy painting them just because it suits my style, and I think they're actually quite pleasing to the eye. There's nothing that's weird about them. There's nothing too clunky, and there's nothing too. They just look like they're like space elves. I think they just look cool.
Yeah.
So, and I really like the vehicles as well. Even the most basic of Drukhari vehicles. I love painting Venoms. I love doing the bikes and stuff. So, I think anything that's Eldari is cool in my book.
I've been well, it's actually a really good segue into a topic that we skipped that we were supposed to talk about at the start, but I couldn't talk about it, which was obviously Dark Eldar Drukhari just came out. Like they had the new codex release for. I know you don't play Bobby, but like how closely do you follow kind of the GW release schedule? Is that something that you're fairly aware of? Like not necessarily maybe the rules, but like which models are coming out, which codex are coming out, because usually that does have a pretty big impact on things like availability, right?
Mm-hmm. I do actually follow it. Strangely, I listen to podcasts and YouTube channels that actually talk about rules.
Right.
So I knew about you, Jim, ages ago. Before I see you on Instagram, I'd always podcast talking about stuff, and half the stuff I don't know what they're talking about. They're talking about stratagems. I don't even know what system we were on, 7th, 8th, 9th. What are we doing here? But I do listen to all of them because it's important that I at least know what. I can't just be in my painting bubble, and then a client then talks to me and wants to talk hobby, and I'm like, well, unless it's about paints and brushes, we're done. Even though I don't physically have the time to play the game, I used to be very good. Throughout my teen years, I played over 400 games and never lost. When I was in charge of my store, my Games Workshop store, I was the store champion. So I never lost. And when we had a Challenge the Manager day, normally managers used to suck at GW because they were too busy. I was the opposite. So I would never lose, really. So I used to be very competitive. I even though I can't do it, I appreciate when someone actually can do that now, like yourselves. So when you guys go off to tournaments, and when I hear my clients, some of them that are competitive, they get such a buzz by doing that. I think it's only right that I then share a bit of that buzz by actually, when they talk to me, I go, oh, how did you do at the LVO? How did you do at this? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So they can use abbreviations and I know what they're talking about. And it's almost like there is a soul behind a commission painter at the end of the day that people sometimes forget. We're not mindless robots. We are still hobbyists. So it's quite cool that I try to learn all this mumbo jumbo that you guys do on the gaming table, but it's impressive. I respect it and I like it when I just miss it. If I'm honest, I don't get to game.
And so one of the I guess the biggest issues that we've been having right now, and why I brought up the Drukhari, and you'll see where the segue was going before I asked 30 more questions. But obviously with the pandemic and there's been huge like, so Curse City, which is the new like board game, which the models are just absolutely gorgeous. Like everyone, like I ordered a copy. And just like you, I don't play AOS, but I still listen to AOS content because I just absorb it, right? So I still kind of try to figure out what's going on. And I've never played like Blackstone Fortress. I never bought Silver Tower. Finally, I decided, okay, I'm going to get into this Warhammer Quest thing. So I pre-ordered Curse City. Obviously, as you know, it like sold out in like 2 minutes. there's all this drama right now on the internet, and then Drukari as well. Like if you go to the Games Workshop web store right now and you try to buy Drukari, you can buy like one thing from the army. Everything is completely sold out. Now, we have had obviously lots of production issues GW has. What do you think of that in general? Like, do you think GW needs to either slow down their release schedule until they can catch up? And then how has that affected your kind of, because your job as a commission painter? Because I'm trying to do a Dark Angels commission right now, and I have about half of it, but the other half has been sold out for the last 3 months, 4 months. So like I'm telling the guy, I'm like, well, I can, as soon as I get the models, like the models are back, I will be able to kind of do the rest. But it kind of really puts a hamper on getting this project done and out the door, right? Because the models are just not available. So what do you think of the whole kind of the production issues that GW has been kind of going through? And have you found it's affected the projects that you're working on, or because you're booked so far in advance, you've had these models, in a closet for 6 months already, waiting for you to get to them?
I do understand a little bit of what Games Workshop must be going through, because I think they're actually models are being released now that were meant to have been released months ago. And I know that the factory did shut down for 3 months, and during that 3 months, I think they were actually making like masks and stuff. They weren't making toy soldiers. They were having to make the stuff that we ended up having to need with the COVID and that. So I can understand that the whole schedule's gone skew. If they do a lovely launch weekend, they tell us all this, but they can't meet the demand. So then all these people on the internet get upset. I think a big part, I don't actually pay much attention because I think it's just a lot of, I'm going to say, angry internet people. And I would say that they're a very small percentage.
What?
It might be that, I think. But as I'm at an age now where I don't get that bothered by stuff. I hit 40 last year. I'm honestly not bothered if Cursed City is sold out in an hour. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. Because I click on the website and it says in 2 weeks there's going to be a second pile coming out. So I'm like, well, I'll just wait 2 weeks. I can't play it with anyone anyway. So I think a lot of people get a little bit instantly angry. And you see it on lots of things. It's not just a GW thing. I think it's just a general, people have been cooped up for a long time and they're getting even more stressed. And it's not actually that big an issue, I don't think. They're doing what they can. Obviously, they're trying to make money. It's not like they're deliberately holding back production. It's literally they can't produce what they want to. So things are coming out on different schedules. I saw models for the Adepta Sororitas, and I've not even seen some of them. You're like, well, you spoke about it ages ago. Where is it? But I don't get stressed about it. Admittedly, if you were a gamer like yourselves, I can imagine you're a little bit more stressed. So I see where you're coming from. But there are greater things happening in the world that, affect people's lives other than toy soldiers being delayed, is my honest opinion.
Right.
But it doesn't actually affect me that much regarding my work, because the clients that I have that book, they book obviously 6 months at least ahead with me. So they've already sourced the models, or they're going to source the models. And if there's an issue with sourcing the models, I simply swap them with another client. So if there is like a shortage on something, then I'm very flexible in what I do, because obviously these guys have got their own lives to lead. They have kids, they have issues going on. Some of them get quarantined, whatever it is. So they literally contact me and I juggle them around. It's as simple as that. So I'm very flexible when I'm a commission painter, and I don't let things like that. That's just a small little hurdle to me. I don't see it as a barrier. I think sometimes people make a big thing out of something that isn't actually that big. And because it's sometimes on the internet, people just say stuff. And if you were in the pub saying that, you wouldn't be anywhere near as vocal. You'd be like, I got a bit upset. And admittedly, it's different if, like yourselves, you guys spend a lot of money traveling places, or you would if you were allowed.
Yeah, I would have.
You know what I mean? The financial aspect for some people is high, to the point where the girlfriends don't get told how much you've spent. Do you know what I mean? You're spending so much money on your hobby that you're like, don't tell anyone. But I can understand that if you guys are mainly the gamers, then it would probably affect you an awful lot more. You're trying to do a list or build something, but you can't get the parts. So no, it puts a dampener on it.
Yeah, I think
Patreon players are really hurting with those Gravis heavy intercessors and Eradicators never being in stock. And I mean, like the problem is, like, yeah, you're right. Like the demand for these things, it's unfortunate, but like at the same time, is like there's bigger fish to fry. And if like your problem is miniatures right now, like I think you're doing pretty good right now. I mean,
I do see the flip side. If someone is, sorry, if someone's really wanting to kind of do it though, I can see that their importance for that is massive. Do you know, I don't see it as a big thing. Someone who's a gamer might see that as top priority to them, and then they get more and more angry. They're trying to do what they want to do, but they can't do it. If they suddenly said there was a paint shortage in the world, I would probably be just as angry as they are. Do you know what I mean? Because it's affecting me. I'd be like, I cannot if I've got to go get craft paints because Games Workshop don't sell paints, they're out of stock, then there's an issue. So I can see that some people probably are correct that they're that angry, but I think it's a very
Yeah.
small amount. It's just people getting a bit angry.
Yeah, I say those people, you can start complaining when you finish your unpainted models. Okay, that's how I believe that. Like, no, you have when people are complaining about Cursed City, I'm like, you know what? Like, maybe you should paint Crystal Fortress first and Black Crystal. What's it called? The first Warhammer Quest box set.
Silver Towers, was it?
Silver
Silver
Tower.
Towers, yeah.
Paint your Silver Tower models, and then you can paint your Cursed City models. Like.
What's the vibe with you guys? Obviously, you guys talk to gamers. You've got a group that you guys socialize with. Maybe it's obviously online now, but what's the general vibe where you are? I mean, is everyone genuinely upset? I mean, I've got lots of people that I talk to, and no one's generally that upset. So I don't know where these people are.
I think I think with something like Curse City, which I think there is that disappointment because people aren't really sure when or if it's going to come back. I know there's been some cases of like the last, I'd say like 6 months, every time Games Workshop has released something, whether it's like a main release or a limited release, it sells out instantly, and there's like the haves and the have-nots, right? So there's always that I personally, I don't care because I have lots to paint, and I'm not playing in events anyways. I'm not even playing games really. So like whether I have the new shiny isn't really bothering me at all. But I definitely I do see from a lot of gamers that maybe are like, especially in the U.S., Australia, that where there's more events are starting kind of back up, and they're not able to get the models they need to play in the event. So it's mostly coming from the competitive crowd. But even for things like the books, sometimes like I'm a big fan of the Horus Heresy books, and I've read all those books. I don't know if you read any of the novels or anything like that, or listen to any of the audiobooks, but when the limited edition books come out, like they have limited edition prints of the hardcovers of like the Siege of Terra books, they're instantly being scalped on eBay. They're instantly being like, and so like there's people that are like true fans that just want copy for themselves. And I don't know if it's maybe the obviously limited edition is exactly what it is. It's limited, right? But I think sometimes people feel like I've been trying to get a PlayStation 5 for a year, basically, right? At this point, I don't even know when it came out, but it's been 6 months and I still can't get a PlayStation 5 unless I want to buy it from a scalper. I can't get a new video card for my computer because the whole world is going through supply chain issues. This is not a Games Workshop specific thing, and I think people need to understand that. This is not like limited to Games Workshop, but at the end of the day, I think some people are really looking. GW has these like long hype periods, right? Like they previewed Cursed City, I think, in like January, so it's like 2 months of hype, right? They're doing previews every week. There's this, that, the other thing, and then it looks really cool. Looks like a really cool game, and then all the like cool YouTubers get review copies, right? So then you see all these other videos of people getting copies, and then people get a little bit like. Then they're like, okay, so all these copies are getting given away, and it's probably less than like 100 copies, right? Out of like, they probably make 100,000, they give away 100, and people are like, why are you giving away 100? So it's totally it's like a non thing. But I guess at the end of the day, like, this is a hobby that is as much of it is a hobby. I think people actually are I definitely, it's a huge part of my life. Like I don't say I'm addicted, but like I definitely like find joy in getting like Cursed City boxes or getting new releases and stuff like that. So when there's that like carrot dangled in front of you and then it's taken away, like you can't have it. It's like, here's this thing, but you can't have it. I think there's something there, right? There's some sort of like, you can be frustrating, especially when there's like GW has done such like, and I'm sure you remember, Bobby, but like 5 years ago, before Warhammer Community, before GW even like Games Workshop was awful. They didn't talk to the customers. There's like, this isn't like the what's his name? Roundhouse? Who's the old CEO?
Roundtree.
Roundhouse. Kevin Roundtree, and he was awful, right?
Maybe that's what you want to do to him.
Am I thinking Tom? No, Roundtree's the new guy. Tom Kirby. I'm thinking Tom Kirby is the old guy.
Kirby was the old one, yeah.
Yeah, so Roundtree's the new guy, and he's actually done a really great job of turning things around. But in the Kirby days, like GW didn't talk to you, and it's like they don't tell you like, hey guys, we're gonna have this back in 2 months. Like I think just a little bit of more transparency on their part and saying, hey, we're just like really behind and this will be back in 2 months. There's this like I don't know. There's like I almost feel like Games Workshop does it a little bit of it on purpose. It's like because there was lots of stories with like some of these bigger and this is like a bit of a tangent, but like companies like Nvidia, ATI, Intel, AMD, like these guys. I say ATI, AMD is just AMD now. There's no ATI anymore, but they purposely limit supply to drive up like the secondary market, to drive up prices. Right now, Games Workshop, their model is their web store, their retail stores, and then the normal game stores, right? And they'd always prefer you to buy it from them than buying it from a game store, because when you buy it from them, they get 100%. When you buy it from the game store, they get, there's obviously selling to the game store with some pricing. So I hate being conspiratorial, because I feel like, it's probably, Occam's razor here. It's probably not that complicated. It's probably just that they run out of stuff and they just can't keep up. But part of me also thinks, like, if they maybe, and I know the lead times on these things are, like, those boxes were probably printed 7 months ago, right? Like, the lead times on those plastics were made 7, 8, 9 months ago, maybe a year ago, right? Like, these are not things, people sometimes forget that the lead time on a miniature is like 3 years from like concept drawing to being in your hand. It's probably around 3 years, right? So they're already sculpting like the sculpt stuff for like 10th edition right now, right? Right. So every release for 9th edition is already been done and sculpted and ready to go and getting produced. So I think people forget that. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I guess at the end of the day, I think they could do a better job of kind of putting a little bit of like putting out those fires a little bit by just communicating a little bit more about these stock issues and just being a little bit more transparent. It's because these are new things, right? Like, and I think it's partly because of the pandemic, but also Games Workshop is one of the most successful companies in the UK. Their market cap is like £4 billion now. Their stocks are gone crazy over the last 5 years. Like, they've grown and grown. They're getting so popular. I see them on mainstream YouTube channels. So I think it's a double whammy. You got COVID on one hand, and then the popularity is increasing. Plus, like, of all the types of disasters to have, one where you're stuck inside and all you can do is like collect models is probably like beneficial for them too, right? Like, so yeah. So I guess that's my take on it. Is I don't blame them, but I think that they could probably do a better job of communicating these things, and then also just like walking people off the conspiratorial ledge and making sure people don't think that they're withholding stuff and trying to kind of create hype, and create scarcities to drive up like demand, I guess.
Well, I think one of the other problems too is sometimes GW doesn't explain what's considered a limited run or a like they don't explain it sometimes. Like I play Titanicus, and have you guys ever looked at the game at all or played it?
I've looked at it, yeah.
Okay.
Robots.
So when you play the game, you have these little things called like data cards, like maniple cards, where like you have little blips and you can like push like little markers on this cardboard like piece of paper to show like how much damage is on this, what reactor level you're at, like where your void shields are. They're made of cardboard, and you put little blips in, and you buy them in like little containers, and they're like $30 for like 10 of them. GW doesn't make those anymore. And what they started doing is they made like paper versions that go in some of the boxes, but not all of them. So like GW just kind of like stopped producing it. And like when you don't know that, you just think to yourself, oh, like I'll buy it later. And then they're just like, they don't produce them anymore. So you have to go on eBay, or you have to go on like a third party and that does like MDF, like CNC routing. And then you have to make like your own like magnet board. It's like, it's fine, but at the same time, it's like when GW creates a product and they just like disappear off the face of the earth, you're like, oh, that's cool. Thanks a bunch. Oh yeah, the gang tactic cards. I get so frustrated about that. Like, because I play Necromunda as well. I play a lot of specialist games, and it like sucks when I'm like, oh, I won't buy them at release, or they sell out because like every store in my region gets like really piss poor allocation, because if you're not a big store in the States, you just don't get allocated like anything. You get like one of something. Then you just don't ever get it, and you have to hunt down eBay, and like a deck of cards that costs like $15 is like $80, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, like GW needs to like explain that to people. Not to mention they don't sell a lot of stuff at their actual Games Workshop stores, which is also confusing. But.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue, David, which is like Curse City, cool, but guess what? Do you know who I can play with right now? 0 people. Which means the only reason I'm buying it is because I'm worried if I want to buy it later, I can't. Right?
Yeah.
And that whole concept of I'm buying it now because I'm scared I'm not going to be able to buy it later, that is something that is entirely driven by Games Workshop could solve that problem. They could say, hey, we're going to have 10,000 copies, and then we're going to do a made to order just like we did for the Indominus box. And when it's all, and so like don't worry if you don't get your copy now. There'll be a way to get a copy later. You don't have to go to eBay and buy scalper prices. And so I ordered
Yeah.
it at Curse City, and I'm regretting it because I'm like, here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go to the LGS. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna put it directly in my closet, and I'm gonna close my closet. And I'm probably not gonna look at it for 6 months because I have other things that are more important to me. And then at some
Yeah.
point, hopefully, when I'm like ready to paint it, I'm gonna go open it and I can actually see other people to play with. I'm gonna go get it and like paint it and play. But like the only reason I'm getting it is because I'm worried I'm not gonna be able to get it later.
Oh
And
yeah.
that lack of information from GW, I think it's an issue that they need to. I think they could do better, but I actually don't think they want to because they want to sell out everything that they make. If you sell wholesale goods and every time you make something you sell it 100%, that means there's nothing sitting in a warehouse taking up
Yeah.
space. There's no extra cost. There's no like extra stock. Like it's an amazing business model, right? But for your customers, it sucks because if I want Curse City later, and even now I saw literally someone posted their Curse City, like it was like Curse City for sale on like one of the buy sell forums here, and they're like, we'll ship it on Saturday when it releases. So they didn't even actually own the copy, but they'd ordered a copy and they were selling it before they got it, and they just got
Yeah.
shit on by everyone. They're like, because they were selling it at like scalper prices, right? And that's just that, and now that has become its own thing. People literally are like buying stuff just for the purposes of scalping it, and that's become its own secondary like market, and it's kind of fed itself, right? And now
Yeah.
everyone does that for everything, and it's like fed this beast, right? So I just think I think GW could do a lot better in like helping out like normal people that don't want to do that, just like have a box of stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
I do agree actually with what you're saying because I think Games Workshop are clever in what they do. They're never 100% transparent because it's a business, so that obviously they're going to sell it through their website and not a flagship, not the actual like stores. It's from
Yeah.
them. They get a higher cut. There's more profit, and like
Yeah.
you're saying, there's nothing left in the warehouse. But the other thing is, there's a lot of people that buy these things and they just want it, but they're not actually going to do anything with it, even if they could get hold of it. So
Guilty.
you've
Yeah.
fallen into the trap because literally I looked at it and said that would be cool to have, but then I looked across at my Sisters of Battle and went, but I'm painting these, so I just said, well, I don't need it. Whereas clearly Jim has the urge to just click the buy button and get himself some more.
Well, Bobby, you have
I need help,
supernatural.
man. I need help.
I think we all have our piles of shame, Bobby. It sounds like you don't, and I don't know how that works. You
I literally just have Sisters of Battle up there. That's all
So-
I've got. I've got nothing else.
walk me through how you do that because I need help.
I have
I used to be like Jim and you. That's I
Hey,
used to be you guys.
Hold on. To be fair, I have an announcement today. Actually, just before this, minus a few pieces of static grass, which I didn't have time to do today. I have now finished every single Death Guard model that I own. Total of 8,000 points of Death Guard I finished for myself. I don't own a single more Death Guard model, so my entire Death Guard is fully complete. All my Chaos that I own is fully finished. Now, I do have 3 sets of Indominus in my closet for my Space Marines, which I'm going to get to next. But this is like momentous. I finished an entire army, and I finished like 3, like the way the rule of, like there's a rule of 3 in 40K, where basically like you can't have more than 3 of everything. So I have 3 of like almost every vehicle that I would ever want. I have enough, all the characters, I have everything. So I'm at a point now where like officially after I put the Statigrass on, this army is like completed, like 100% completed. There's not like now when the new zombies come up for the vampire counts, I might get like 50 of them and turn them into poxwalkers, but I won't own any models that I don't own. So like for me, I'm not actually that sick. When I got out of the hobby, I did the same thing. I actually sold off everything, and I made a very conscious effort not to have a pile of shame. And the only reason I have 3 sets of Indominus is because of the reason we were talking about is because I ordered 1 set, and then I traded. I ordered 2 sets because it was Crazy Town. I had an opportunity to get 2 sets, and then I traded the Necron half for another set, and then someone ended up selling a 3rd set, so I just got a 3rd set of just the Marines. And I haven't touched them because I've been painting Death Guard for 6 months. But anyways, Bobby, I want to be it's been almost 2 hours here, so I don't know, David, do you have any kind of final thoughts or anything you want to talk about before we kind of wrap up here?
I mean, honestly, I think we covered a lot of bases today. A lot about painting. I'm always happy to talk about that. Frankly, nah, man. I got nothing else I can really say.
All right. And Bobby, anything you want to? I mean, we talked about the charity work that you did, and we're definitely going to link that. We'll make sure to link your Instagram as well. People can follow you. Is there anything else you want to? Any shout outs you want to give out, or anything else that you want the world to know? Not that the world is watching, but only the 30 people that will watch this episode. Is there anything you want them to know?
I just wanted to say that I'm also doing some tutorials soon. I've had a lot of people that have asked for some more stuff from me, and I'm actually going to be doing some online painting lessons. So it's just something that I can do to help out some people. And other than that, it's just see if you could spend a few seconds just to check out the 40 Hours of 40K page and just do a bit of the charity stuff. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And just thanks to both of you as well. It's nice to meet you. It's always intriguing to see our fellow hobbyists, no matter how far away we are. And I think I'm sure Bods eventually will pay for me to come to Canada on holiday, and I can do it as a business thing, I'm sure.
Well,
but
yeah.
All right.
Where exactly in the UK are you?
I'm in Northumberland,
Okay.
so I'm just south of Scotland.
So I just found out today. They've announced, the guys that do the London GT have announced the Leicester GT. Is that how you say it? And I
saw that. Yeah.
But like Leicester, the way it's spelled, I was like Leicester. And then I heard Tom Layton, who's from I think he's from Wales, on the Honest Wargamer. He said Leicester, and I was like, wait, what? That's how you say it? Like, it doesn't. It's got like 17 letters in it, and it's pronounced Leicester. So my point is like, I'm hoping that by the time either the London GT or the Leicester GT, which I don't know how close that is to you, are happening, I might be able to come up to the UK because I was supposed to come out the last few years for as the first leg of my trip to the WTC. Obviously, that didn't happen the last few years. So I'm really hoping to make it out there for one of the events out there, and who knows, maybe we'll try to grab a pint or something like that. But I do really appreciate you coming on, Bobby. I learned a lot from you. I think I've definitely like been humbled by like your discipline and like the hard work that you put into what you do. I think it was very eye opening for me to kind of hear you really kind of talk through your process and your mentality, and it's something that I think I'm gonna definitely work on for myself, because I'm like the least productive, most distracted painter, whether it's for myself or whether it's like sometimes I'll like do one highlight and like check my phone, do one highlight, get a snack. So I'm definitely inspired by your productivity. And I'm definitely.
If you were sitting next to me and we were forming Red Eagle Studio and growing it, I would be tutting at you. I'd be like, "What are you doing? Get yourself sat there and crack on."
Yeah, I don't think I would have made it. I don't think I would have made it long as one of your employees. I would have probably made it through one of the days. So with that said, everyone that tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It was a really great stream. Please make sure to share this cast when it's live, where it's going to be on YouTube, Twitch, and also podcast form on all your podcast apps. Please make sure to check out the page on YouTube and on Twitch and give us a follow. We're going to be doing episodes like this every Thursday, and then other kinds of shows as well, so you can check out the schedule on Twitch. So with that said, I wanted to thank Bobby one last time, and thank you everyone for listening. Have an amazing day, everyone.